you hear me? Grady, are you there?
He's not there.
It says he is, but he's not.
He should be able to hear you. It's all, everything.
Councilman 6, District 4, Charles Whitaker. We have remote, District 2, Grady Simpson. And we'll have District 5, Tim Royce, joining us shortly. This time, normally we have our mask on. If you're social distancing, you may remove your mask if you still have it on. Grady, would you lead us in invocation, please, if everyone would stand?
Yes, Mayor. Let me stand by our please. Father God, we give you much thanks for this day, much gratitude. We thank you for the opportunity through our adversity to these problem solvers and to bring solutions to our city and to our county. We ask for your continued guidance and wisdom, and most of all, we pray that your power will come and unify all of us to be as one, to serve and to protect and to love. All in your name we pray, amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to you, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Our next item on the agenda is to hear remarks from visitors. I don't think we have anyone. Okay. We don't have any recognitions from anyone while we wait. As we wait for Sims and we wait for council, I would like to express the condolences to former Mayor Anderson. Her husband, Colonel Anderson, passed away recently, and our thoughts and prayers are with both of them. They've been huge community leaders, examples for a lot of us in many ways. I served with Mayor Anderson my first term as a council member, and then also while she was mayor. So thoughts and prayers are with you. We hope that we get an opportunity to recognize the colonel in a more appropriate forum. But anyway, my understanding is that they're having a military service for family, and then at some time later the city will be able to recognize him as well. Item number 5.1 is discuss and consider award for professional services for June-Harrisee water main design. This is going to be Assistant City Engineer Mike McKeska.
Yes, Mayor and Council, we discussed this last week. And online, Terrell did not join us last week. Was not able to for some technical issues and stuff. Terrell Stewart, he has a fancy title of Director of Infrastructure, I believe it is, with RJN Group. He has a lot of experience, a lot of years with Dallas Water Utilities, and then he has been working for some consulting firms and so forth for probably the last 15 years or so, different areas. And Terrell, if you could do a very brief intro to RJN, just to let the council know. We typically do this last week, but that didn't happen, so if you could just spend a couple of minutes talking about RJN's experience and what they bring to the table, and then I'll cover the item quickly, okay? You hear me? He's muted. You're muted, Terrell.
Can you turn your mic on, please?
There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Mayor, City Council is indeed to be here this afternoon. My name is Terrell Stewart, and I'm the Director of Infrastructure, like I mentioned, for the RJN Group. We have actually been
in existence since 1975, and we have served the Dallas-Fort Worth area since that time, so over 45 years now, with water and wastewater services that we provide for a number of clients throughout the Metroplex. We specialize in the design, planning, assessment, and construction management services related to water and wastewater installations. We hope to bring that experience to the table on this June-Harrisee project that's being considered for award by the council tonight, and we certainly look forward to sharing our expertise and look forward to a very, very successful project on this assignment. So I want to thank the council for this opportunity and your consideration, and we look forward to working with everyone.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Short.
Go ahead. You good? Okay. So just a quick reminder, this project is including the survey and then the design work to replace a 14-inch water main that basically runs down North Francis and then June-Harrisee between Rose, following that route up to North Francis. We've had numerous problems over the years with it, and the plan would be to upsize it to a 16-inch and tie it into the system. That's what we have both on the Town North area and then going down Rose to the east. We have 16-inch pipe. It helped complete the system and eliminates some aged infrastructure. The total fee proposed is not to exceed $210,094. That is shown in the letter on page 7. And again, it includes the survey and design work and also some SUE work to do some investigation of existing infrastructure, make sure we can avoid conflict. The funding of this would be out of the Utility Capital Reserve this year. The schedule reflects that basically we could get to about 90% design in probably about 8 months from now as the current projection, and then we can discuss the funding down the road. So with that, I'll turn that over. That is staff's recommendation to the council.
So, council, the staff recommendation is a lump sum not to exceed $210,094, and that's with the RJN group. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Does anybody have any questions?
Hi.
Yes, Mr. McCusker, Mayor Pro Tem Brady Simpson here. I was looking on the map here. Is this only certain sections of the water line being replaced? Is that what that is?
Yes, we have existing 14-inch pipe that runs from roughly Town North down North Francis, June to Harrisee, which may be a little difficult to read the street names on this map, but it cuts through the little residential neighborhood and then ties into a 16-inch at Rose and Harrisee. And this is a focus on design for replacing the water main only, but we're collecting enough survey data that we'll have information on the sewer system as well. If we determine that there's additional design work that may be needed in the future, we'll have that information.
So we identify some specific details about the water line. In the process, we're just going to gather information about the sewer.
That is correct. Yeah, there'll be a complete
Great plan. Thank you.
gathering of data with survey. So,
Mike,
sorry.
can you tell us a little bit more about what led to the discovery of the water main needing to be replaced, and if there were what attempts were taken to address the issue? And it is what's an aged pipeline that's, I'm estimating, and Steve may know for sure, it's probably 50 to 60 years old. We had numerous breaks, and when this 14-inch pipe breaks, it typically just blows a hole or breaks and splits, and we have a large amount of water that comes out of that leak, and it's led to water getting into houses to some extent in about 3 or 4 different
occurrences. The last one was pretty significant amount of water. He had to have everything pulled out, flooring, everything pulled out of his whole home, I believe. And so it's a continued risk to just ignore it. I mean, it's such, you can't just go do section repairs. We've done that. Every time it splits, we'll do a repair. And the older the pipe gets, you have weak spots, and you're going to find another weak spot over time, you know. It's going to break. It's just, like I said, it's about probably 60 years old or so. And it's basically reaching the end of its life. And so the other risk that comes with that is when you lose water that quickly, you drop the tower. You drop your water supply in the elevated storage tanks, which means you can be at risk of losing pressure in the system if you don't get it valved off quickly. So there's kind of twofold risk to citizens, risk to system pressure, and serving a larger area as well. So.
Sure. So with the age of the infrastructure, the water main, compared to other water mains in the city of Terrell, would you estimate there's, could it be safe to presume that we have similar concerns throughout the city?
Yeah, with the age, yes. We have a decent percentage of mains that are probably 50 years old or more. But they're not, all of them aren't breaking and rupturing and causing the extent of problems that this one has.
And
So-
when they do break or rupture, then we complete the short-term solution, which is to do a replacement of that section.
That's correct. You'll usually go in and replace at least about 10 feet of this pipe every time it breaks.
And is
Not-
that
not
something
all of
our
them.
staff does, or do we
Yes.
have to contract?
No, our staff responds and does it. And it usually turns into about 8 or 10 hours worth of work. You know, it's pretty significant impact, so,
Thank you.
okay.
And Mayor,
Yes.
and these repairs, these improvements are going to help with future development out there. In fact, future development is probably going to happen pretty soon, right?
It'll improve the capacity right here, the future development a little further up North Francis, Camden Home Development. It will help with overall supply to that area. I wouldn't say it's needed for that development, but it will help with the overall supply to that area. Yes, sir.
Okay, does anybody have any further questions? Hearing none, the mayor will entertain a motion. Thank you, Mr. Keski. Not to exceed $210,094. And the firm is RJN.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the professional services for June-Harrisee water main design to RJN Group in the amount not to exceed $210,094.
I have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, District 3. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second from Charles Whitaker, District 4. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. Item number 5.2 is discuss and consider award of professional services for Highway 205 utility relocation study. This is Mike McKeska.
Yes, before I get into that, Terrence, thank you for joining us on this last item. Yeah, on
Thank you,
page,
sir.
on page 25, yeah, there's a map. Again, we discussed this last week. The little red area gives a general study area that we're going to look at regarding water and sewer relocations that are going to be required because of the Highway 205 expansion that TxDOT has planned. We went through a selection process and are recommending awarding a preliminary study to KSA, and would be for an amount not to exceed $45,500. $37,000 for the report. You've got about $7,000 estimate for survey, and then some direct cost. So that would not exceed $45,500. The funding would be out of the utility capital reserve. And again, this is some required work in advance of TxDOT expanding their right-of-way through this section over the next few years.
And they work with TxDOT to make sure that we're...
That is correct.
Okay.
Part of their scope definitely includes communication and coordination with TxDOT on their proposed right-of-way take, their proposed bridge span over the creek, Bachelor Creek, and how that might affect the alignments and different alternatives they look at.
So we'll get ahead of TxDOT and be ready to go when they get here.
Yes, sir.
All right.
That is the plan.
Yeah, and I'm all for planning and being prepared and ready. We don't want to hold anybody up once they get going, so it's something we need to get done. Do you have any further questions? Again, the amount was not to exceed
$45,500
$45,500.
to KSA.
Anybody have any further questions? No? Is there a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve an award of professional services for Highway 205 utility relocation study to KSA in the amount not to exceed $45,500.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, District 3. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second, Charles Whitaker, District 4. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion will carry. Item 5.3 is discuss and consider award of professional service for Brushy Creek corridor study. This is City Engineer Steve Rogers.
Mayor, we discussed this item the other day, last week, and again, we've had a request from McClendon Chisholm to provide them with wholesale water service. We're going to work with the North Texas Municipal Water District and look at a couple of other special law districts in this corridor. If you look at the map that's in your packet on agenda page 48, I believe it is, Brushy Creek is kind of on the left side of the page, running north and south, and so we have a corridor that all these large-scale properties are on that will eventually sewer down to one location, and so water service will proceed that with that as a first step. So what this study will do for a not-to-exceed amount of $54,300 to Freese and Nichols is to look at the demands and projections and look at the mapping on this, to do some analysis on the systems, to coordinate with North Texas Municipal Water District and McClendon Chisholm, since they already have existing customers. Any of these others are just potential developments that are highlighted on here. And they will provide mapping and some cost estimates and alternatives through a technical memorandum that will be delivered at the end of this study. So we have a line item in utility capital reserve specifically for things like this, for coordinating on development type services. So I'll answer any questions.
So as we prepare for the growth of the city, we are experiencing some costs incurred in being ahead of and prepared for development. This is one of those items. It's not cheap to grow. And this is, again, just so that we have everybody on the same page. Is that correct, Mr. Rogers?
Yes, sir. And again, a way to manage growth are through the sale of water.
Right.
I would also say that one of the things this study will get us to is the ability to determine, and there'll be other steps in this, but this is a step in determining cost share arrangements. And if we need to, as we will, collect money from some of these other entities, we need to be able to say, well, here's the math that proves out what the right cost sharing ought to be. So that's another good part of this. And again, there's lots of steps to get that done, but this is a good step in that direction.
Yeah, you got to have the data to move forward with it for sure. So,
Yes, sir.
Anyone have any questions, comments? And it looks like these 1, 2, 3, 5 or 6 different landowners, maybe?
Yes, sir. There's There's about 5 large landowners as well as McGlendon Chisholm in this study.
Okay, anybody have any questions of Steve? Hearing none, again, that's Freeze Nichols, not to exceed $54,300. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the award of professional services for Brushy Creek Corridor Study to Freeze and Nichols in the amount not to exceed $300,000.
Okay, we have a motion for Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, District 3.
Mr. Mayor, could
Yes.
we also authorize the city manager to enter into that agreement?
Yes, council, thank you. So would we amend the motion, Ms. Velazquez, to include authorization for the city manager to authorize the execution of the document?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Is that all right?
Mayor, I move to
Amend?
amend item 5.3 to include the authorization of our city manager, Mike Sims, to include the agreement
Repeat
to
it.
execute the-
execute the agreement.
Thank you, Ms. Velazquez. So that's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second.
A second.
Charles Whitaker, District 4. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion will carry. Item number 6 is to discuss roadway drainage maintenance. This is our Director of Public Services, Glenn Caldwell.
Mr. Mayor, Council. I'll go ahead and get started so that we don't prolong things, and I'll let Ms. Dawn catch up, our Secretary, Assistant Secretary. We're going over the drainage maintenance for 2021, slide number 3 of 14. You're going to see the drainage inventory. We're approximately addressing 236.12 miles of flow line, and that's including sweeping, street sweeper, as well as drainage ditches that our objective is to try and maintain. Next slide is what are our needs or accomplishments?
Can I just, I want to have, pardon me, Glenn.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So on the slide that says maintenance inventory, I'll tell you that one of the very big reasons that Glenn is here today is on the data on the next PowerPoint slide, which shows you that there are 101 miles for street sweeping that are city streets that we focus on quite a bit. We also street sweep some selected TxDOT facilities in the Market Center streets and the Crossroads streets. The good news is we have money specifically from the public improvement districts, so that's extra taxes paid by Buc-ee's and Film Alley and all of those guys that pay for the Market Center streets and the Crossroads street being swept. There is not an extra source of funds to street sweep the TxDOT facilities, but some are so important that we need to take care of some work on those. And then we've been street sweeping 101 miles of our city streets. A thing that Glenn and I have identified is that we really also need very much to concentrate on the open drainage streets. Okay, I can't run a street sweeper down a street without a curb, and so Glenn and I are basically giving you a strategy today about how we're going to proceed to tackle not just streets with curbs, but to also tackle the streets with open drainage. And that's been a big goal of ours, and so I'm happy that Glenn is going to tackle that for us. So Glenn, I think I took care of one slide, and now you're to the next one, so that's great.
Before we move on, anytime I see expenditures that the city are picking up the tab on that are TxDOT related, I know I've asked for this before, but we really need a way of tracking all of these extra costs that the city are spending on TxDOT roadway and mowing, whatever it may be. I need that number, because when I go to Austin, I guarantee you, we're going to have a little discussion with somebody at TxDOT and say, this is the amount of money that we're spending, our city's spending on your stuff, and we're going to need some help on that.
We'll have that information to you tomorrow. We
Okay,
keep
good.
track of it
Right.
on a regular basis.
And, yeah, Mike, we need that.
Yes, sir.
You know, you know, and I don't care about the other cities, what they're doing, but I know the city of Terrell is gonna have a sit down and say, hey, know that we're spending money.
Yes,
So
sir.
when we ask for some help or assistance, they need to step up. All right, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, sir. Next slide. One of our goals is, two goals that we have. We want to accomplish continuing the street sweep our curb and gutter streets. We also want to move forward with a new plan of blading and maintaining our city drainage right-of-ways. That's critical, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Okay. There we go. Okay, so in our street sweeping, obviously, Mr. Sims talked about the quantities and how we're funding those particular components. Again, one of the things I want to emphasize is stormwater fund is there for us to utilize to address the curbs for city streets. Our PIDs are taking care of our PID funds are available to take care of the PID locations. We did receive quotes from our contractor. So the lowest quote that we received for curb streets for once a month to cover 101 curb miles was $48,300, and that company is C&D Commercial Services. For a Crossroad PID we are going to be sweeping that twice a month. That's 1.4 miles, 42 miles. That's $7,200, and Market Center is $8,500 for 2.7 miles. So I want to clarify, the question could be asked, why did we choose C&D for Crossroads and Market Center? It's just more economical to have one contractor coming into town than multiple, and as well as we felt comfortable with this company versus interviewing and contacting references with some of the other companies. We did not want to risk the opportunity of creating a problem. So we'll get over into our street conditions. Those are a couple photos I wanted to post. That's Ann Street and Hardin Street. You can see the conditions of some of our drainage ditches that we want to start addressing. And obviously on Hardin Street, you can see the edge of the pavement where you do not see a defined edge of asphalt. Those are issues that allow moisture to get up under your subgrade. It doesn't travel over into your drainage ditch. That's a major problem. There's the failure from those current conditions that we have. Potential deterioration of our pavement edges and shoulders, I just mentioned that. It's so critical. We need to address that. Partial overlays and pavement repairs can result in water being trapped and retained on our travel path, our travel surfaces. That's the component that we need to address and do something different. That's our objective here. The next bullet point is talking about the aggregate and the overlay mix. That as well has a factor, and creating the opportunity to feather the asphalt so that you've got a smooth transition so that the water can sheet flow off. And again, water can be retained in the travelway, which is not good. That permits and allows skidding, hydroplaning, freezing, and it's just not a safe condition for our community, our citizens. Our ditches, they need to be cleaned on a regular basis to prevent from silting, which that's sand and dirt building up and being trapped in our drainage swells. That is critical. We got to keep those open so that the water will flow. And if the water's not flowing, the water stays on our roadways, then the conditions we just talked about become an issue. All right, this particular side is there's two critical components. Your cross slope, which is your road conditions. This is our objective. All of our roads should look like that. Do they? Probably not, obviously not. You have what we call our clear zone. There's two types of clear zone. There's a drainage ditch clear zone side, and then you got your side slopes. The critical impact of this particular slide is your pavement surface, which is a cross slope, transitioning over to the shoulder and your hinge point. Why do I say all that? We still have to maintain safety for the drivers. If someone ends up in the ditch, it needs to be as smooth and as safe of a condition as possible. That's why our objective moving forward is to address our cross slope and our clear zones. Okay. These are some of the guidelines that we recommend to manage. Sodding the edge of our pavement, blading the edge of our pavement, prevent the shoulder from building up, having that drop off to provide a uniform slope sufficient to properly drain the road surface. Serious habitual rutting, we need to eliminate that. That's our goal. We need to make sure we use all of the proper and suitable materials to accomplish these goals and objectives. Blade maintenance, open space drainage, FY21 implementation. We will utilize the stormwater budget for, as well as you saw earlier, from previous year's street sweeping. It cost us $104,000 to sweep all of our streets last year. We worked really hard, our team, to cut that cost in half. It's $48,000 to do our curb streets, which is a major feat. So we're going to utilize those dollars to help address the streets that do not have curb and gutter. Those funds are going to be utilized in those areas instead of on curb and gutter costs for sweeping. We'll hire contractors to assist us with that particular task. We use robotics, great component for our benefit. All of the data that you've seen today is coming from that particular software program, and thanks to SPI for their support in the pavement assessment as well. We're excited and looking forward to it. We'll open up for any questions or comments.
So on the savings on the street sweeping, is it because we changed the amount of street sweeping we're going to do, or is it for the same amount of street sweeping we saw in 2020,
It's
2021?
It's the same amount.
Same number of sweeps.
That's correct, sir.
Sweeps.
That's
what
correct.
we did. That's what we did in 2020.
Once a month. That's
Once a
correct.
month.
And as well, this contractor, we've got a price so that if we need a special sweeping,
Yeah.
we'll do them the same way that we did the previous company. We'll call them as needed.
And we would still come out, all right. So then the other thing would be, when we maintain our streets and our drainage, we actually help the life of the roadway itself, and also our drainage issues that come up from time to time. So it's really, it's maintenance, but it's also preventative. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So when you have heartburn about seeing these kind of expenditures or any expenditures for drainage improvements and/or sweeping, know that there's a benefit for doing such. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Yes, sir. That's correct.
Yeah, and I just want to say kudos to Glenn and his team, because we've seen him take on this challenge and really enthusiastically embrace it, and I think that we'll be seeing some really great results over the course of this year from this effort. So thank you to Glenn.
Yeah, I also want to say, Glenn, out of all the reports that I've had and looked at, this one, you did real well in presenting and the information that we got. Very helpful. Does any council member have any questions or comments?
Mayor, I'll say that
Yes.
at this time, I don't have any heartburn about spending stormwater fees on maintaining our drainage, ditches, our open drainage, stormwater, helping maintain the life of our streets. This is one of the top items that I've been discussing with Mike and with staff on addressing and having a battle plan. So I certainly appreciate staff's work on this item. I do have a couple of questions. So we have 12, Mr. Glenn Caldwell, 12 sweeps that will be included in this proposed contract, this bid. When we say 12 sweeps, is it 12 sweeps and then breaking down the entire Terrell geographical area into 12 different sweeps, or are we seeing all of Terrell being swept 12 times?
We see all of Terrell being swept 12 times. Those are sweep cycles. That means they've got to cover all of Terrell, turn around and start over. That's why you see the sweeper here every day.
Okay.
Practically every day you get a chance to see the sweeper here.
Do you have Tim's name on the side of that?
So is there, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So when we, So then the 12 street sweep cycles for those streets that have the curb and gutter, thank you, curb and gutter. So where are we in parity when we think about the amount of funds and efforts that we're using for streets and gutter to streets that don't have gutter?
So that's an interesting question. Currently, we have approximately, I believe there's about 100,000 drainage maintenance, we have 175,000 available. Storm, sewer, and utility maintenance, we have 100,000 available. We have approximately $50,000 of cost savings from the street sweeping budget that we're going to utilize toward our open drainage swells. So we feel really confident. That's a great start. Now, I can share with you, this is going to be initially a very expensive task because this is something that we have not done a very good job of over the years. So we're going to take this opportunity and make aggressive attacks toward lowering our volume of concerns related to open drainage. So we think this is going to give us a great opportunity to show what we can do if we continue to maintain our open drainages as consistent as we are willing to maintain our curb and gutter streets.
So to make sure I understand, the proposed amount is for the streets with gutter, the 48,300 from our stormwater budget. And then we have about $50,000 that we have to use for non-gutter streets. So the amount is there's parity there in the amount. However, if I'm correct, and don't disagree with, we haven't been doing this type of work in a couple of years now. So it's going to take some time to get back up to where we need to be. Is that what I'm hearing?
That is correct, but I want to be transparent with that. Of that 50,000 that's left over, I still feel confident we need to reserve a portion of that for our emergency needs or event needs for sweeping curb and gutter. When we host the parade, that's a separate sweep potentially, those things. So all of the 50,000 will not go toward that. But when we talk about the remaining dollars left of the 50,000, that's only a small portion of our objective of what we're planning to use. I think we're considering approximately 100,000 this budget year to dedicate to the drainage.
Glenn's combining two different line items in the budget here. So he's got a stormwater fund for street sweeping. We're going to use some of that, and it will be close to, but not quite 50,000. And then Glenn's got another account also in the stormwater fund that he has for drainage maintenance, and he'll be using a large amount of that account as well. I'm going to hesitate to put an exact number on it right now. In terms of parity, I can assure you we're going to spend more money on the open drainage streets this year than we're going to spend on curb and gutter this year. I think the real question from a citizen point of view is, well, how many miles of open drainage are you going to get done this year? And I'm going to defer answering that because I'm going to see some contracting work from Glenn's shop, and I want to see a little bit of performance from Glenn's shop before we go around quoting the number of miles of street we can do on open drainage this year. We're going to tackle a good number of open drainage streets this year, but I'd rather give you a report in August and tell you how many miles we accomplished, and then let you assess this budget line item for next year's budget and say, hey, let's put more there, or whatever decision you want to make. But let me get a year under our belt first before we go around quoting how many miles we can do.
Sure. What are we looking as far as timeline-wise and getting started with the open drainage maintenance? And then my follow-up question as well is, what about the culverts and resettling of culverts? Will that also fall on the contractor, or will that be something that our staff needs to address?
There will be a combination between our staff and as well as contractors. So that's our approach. And we feel confident that we have already started working on the open drainage. We're doing some mowing of some drainage ditches, and
yes.
we're also just cleaned a huge drainage ditch that's there on Industrial Boulevard and near adjacent to 34. Just about completed, we'll have that done. Contractor worked on that. But as far as the critical path to addressing the drainage swells adjacent to residential properties, we're still working on that item. As you recall, the previous year, we did a herbicide management, which is going to be incorporated in that location, and we also are doing a lot of the drainage in-house because we have a grade also. We're going to absorb some of that cost in-house. So the burden's not totally on, depending on contractors. We're going to use our staff as well as contractors to do the work.
I also have found the herbicide management helpful in the areas that I've seen staff addressed now, up to now, and I think those have been very helpful in my opinion. What I certainly would ask for the rest of council and also staff to consider as we watch the amount of funds coming into amount of funds that we're receiving through the city's end, to consider in increasing the amount of funding that we're adding into, to consider adding additional funding to allow as much as we can to be done on the open drainage.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
We've got another meeting at a second location. We're probably going to need to wrap this up. If you have any more questions or comments for Glenn, please forward those to him. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We are at our consent agenda. This is going to be items 7.1 through 7.4. The first one is discuss and consider ordinance number 2822. The second one, 7.2, is discuss and consider ordinance number 2850 on second reading. Both of these on second reading. Do I need to read those into the record?
No, you don't, Mr. Mayor. The consent agenda can be considered in block as one item.
Okay, and then also 7.3 is discuss and consider ordinance number 2851 on second reading, and 7.4 is discuss and consider ordinance number 2854 on second reading. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
May I make a motion that we approve consent agenda as presented?
We have a motion from Grady Simpson, Mayor Pro Tem District 2. Is there a second?
Mayor, I second.
We have a second from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, District 3. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor let it be known by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Motion will carry. For the record, we did have our Tim Royce, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem District 5, join us, so good to see you. Thank you.
Started talking about street sweepers, any guy shows up.
So thank you all very much. We have nothing for executive session. We are now adjourned.
Yeah, you walked right in, Roy. That's what we're talking about, street sweepers.
This is perfect. Hey,
Yes.